I'm Ezra Raya reporting on the hottest issues and the biggest stories. This is the Manila Times. Soaring temperatures across the Philippines prompted several regions to suspend classes in anticipation of extreme hot weather. Senator Win Gatchalian is urging schools to implement blended learning amid concerns of hot spells and the pertussis or whooping cough outbreak. According to Pag-asa, the heat index in 5 locations in the Philippines has reached the danger level, with northern Samar, Zamboanga, and Camarines Norte hitting up to 43 degrees Celsius. Last year, the country's highest temperature hit 37 degrees Celsius, with the highest heat index of 63 degrees Celsius recorded in Aurora. Meanwhile, extreme heat in Metro Manila is also undeniable. How can we protect ourselves in this boiling hot weather? Here with us is public health expert and DOH former health advisor, Dr. Tony Leachon. Welcome to the Manila Times Talk. So, how can we protect ourselves in this boiling hot weather?
Well, the usual first aid measures is basically to hydrate yourself. Number one, yan. Before you leave the house, you need to be hydrated. For normal individuals, you need to at least drink 3 liters per day. Perspiration can actually lose you 1 liter of water every day. So, two types of persons are at the extreme of developing problems related to his stroke, the elderly and the young ones. The elderly is basically because they have underlying or comorbid conditions. Let's say if they have heart disease, if they have, let's say, cancer undergoing chemotherapy, they are on diuretics or water pills. If they have hypertension, again on medications, or with diabetes with chronic kidney disease. If you are dehydrated, you might actually be predisposed to dialysis. Kaya delikado ang ganitong mga sitwasyon. So that's basic is hydration. Number two is the clothing. Dapat talaga cotton lang or linen ang mga suot mo. And then, you have to bring din headgear. Either may payong ka or may sombrero ka. And then, you have to protect yourself from the heat of the sun. Dapat meron kang mga sunblock because of the ultraviolet radiation. And time and again, because of the climate change, ito yung nagiging problema natin. Kaya ang basic nito is to educate and empower everyone. Kasi what I'm trying to say, year in, year out naman, because of the climate change, you have extreme weather condition. You have the wet na babagyo at babaha, and then you have the hot weather, particularly in the northern part of Luzon and other parts outside of the national capital region. So basically, and then there are people who are at most risk in terms of occupation. One, yung mga nasa road na nagbebenta along the highway, traffic enforcers, sports, those are sweeping the streets. So these are people na very predisposed to development of heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and of course heat stroke. So a lot of people uh, are being reported na nagko-collapse because of severe dehydration leading to, of course, heat stroke in comorbid condition. Doon naman sa young ones, yan ang delikado because they cannot complain eh. So all you need to do is hydrate them, and of course, you have to bring them to the pediatrician just in case magka-problema. So yun ang kailangan nating ingatan. And of course, because of the news in Pampanga about 2 kids right now, 3 years old and 2 years old, who entered a vehicle na na-suffocate, ang init pa naman. So let us be sure that our kids while playing should not enter mga empty warehouses or garage or vehicles, and we need to be vigilant in observing these situations.
Sir, you're following your own advice. No, I can see you're also wearing light clothing right now and not the regular lab gown. Sir, would you agree with what most schools are doing, that they're suspending classes to encourage the students to just stay indoors?
I would recommend that. I would recommend that yung face-to-face classes should be suspended because of the extreme hot conditions, lalo ng mga bata. And of course, in areas outside of the NCR, most of them are living outside of the schools. Ang lalayo niyan. So they have to walk. Very, 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 very dangerous. Alam mo, at this time, no, simplicity is the ultimate goal. Pagpasok sa akin ng summer, naka-scrub suit na lang ako right now because yung conditions kasi masyado mainit eh. So ako, I think that's the right approach right now. Temporary lang naman yan. In just 2 months, you have the rainy season. We have to protect our kids right now from the extreme conditions ng hot weather. Mamaya magka-heat stroke. If you remember again last year, a student from Colegio de San Agustin collapsed at the Xavier School while playing football. Oh, so yan yung mga stories na we don't want to happen. And you know naman kids, when they play outside, mahirap yan. I think we have to protect our kids, lalo na ngayong ang conditions ay talagang ibang-iba at this point in time.
So this heat affects everyone, and the best way to stay cool is to avoid going outdoors altogether. And for the schools, blended learning is the way to go. And sir, another question is, what if we sometimes we couldn't avoid absorbing the heat, lumabas tayo or what? What do we do? Or what are the first signs of a heat stroke or a heat migraine, and what do we do about it?
Well, ang una kasi, ako, I usually leave the house. Meron akong survival kit para alam natin. So, I have umbrella, I have headgear, I have extra clothing, and extra gown. And then, I have about 2 liters of water of 500 cc right there. Now, just in case magka-heat stroke, the first is actually to dose, um, magkaroon ng ice cold water right away na and then wash them. Tapos you have this face towel with you or towel with ice cold water and have to put that in the neck area, the armpits and the groin area. And then open, of course, the space and then electric fan. And then elevate the legs so that kung may hypotension, you'll be able to resuscitate that patient. Now, in about 10 minutes, nare-resuscitate naman sila. But if the blood pressure is still low, you have to bring the patient for intravenous hydration or intravenous fluids. Usually, madaling i-first aid siya. Ang kailangan lang, the people should know on how to do it. Siya nga pala, those actually sa beaches, don't drink alcohol kasi diuretic siya. Those with elderly senior citizens na may heart disease, do not go there kasi mamaya may mga medications kayo that will interfere like diuretic. Now, the beverages na nakakaihi ng ihi ay alcohol, number 1, caffeine, tea, and of course those on diuretics. Ito yung mga delikadong mga pasyente kasi suddenly nagda-drop ang blood pressure niya and they develop of course hypotension and then leading to collapse. So those are the first aid na ginagawa natin.
So there's so many advice on how to avoid extreme heat this in this weather. So one of them, former health secretary and now turned lawmaker, Congresswoman Janet Garin, said to stop wearing underwear at home for women. What's your comment on that?
Well, there are certain scientific explanation for that. But if you're going to advise this kind of situation, it should be universally accepted kasi you have to go to the bottom of the problem, which is hydration. Even if you actually you not wear underwear, dehydrated ka pa rin, baliwala siya eh. So you have to attack the problem of hydration. That's number one. Number two, I don't think it's hygienic in the first place. So it's not something that you can actually give that, let's say, sa schools, sa workers, or the community. It's kind of unorthodox in terms of the universality of application. And number three, of course, people will not take you seriously for doing that because the old traditional one is, of course, hydration and lowering of the body temperature. And mahirap eh. What if you're doing that and then you were brought to the hospital? Ang hirap naman, wala ka naman lang underwear. Nakakahiya yun, di ba? I mean, no offense meant, but I think at the level of her expertise and experience, I think the people should deserve naman a higher level of explanation regarding on how to resuscitate patients na nagkakaroon ng problema. But that is her opinion, and I think we need to respect her. And I don't know, but I would not subscribe to it.
Doc, aside from boiling hot weather, we're also facing other problems in public health, such as the pertussis or the whooping cough outbreak. So there's an outbreak here in Quezon City, and other provinces have declared state of calamity. So, Doc, can you explain to us what is pertussis and how can we avoid it?
Pertussis is a respiratory tract infection caused by a bacteria known as Bordetella pertussis. And the usual signs are fever, cough, and dyspnea. More common in infants. And the whooping cough, yun ang binigay sa kanya because of the extraordinary sound of the cough, talaga nag-woof. And ang problema nun, the bacteria attacks the lining of the respiratory tract, denuding the ciliated epithelium so that the usual protective mechanism natin maglabas ng plema ay hindi natin nagagawa and you're being trapped with that. So the best way is actually to give antibiotics right away because if you give the antibiotics late in the course, let's say 1 week or 2 weeks, delikado na yung pasyente. Of course, that is on the curative side. Pero if you want to prevent that, what the Department of Health should do is to have an aggressive vaccination drive sa infants, sa toddlers, dun sa mga adolescents at saka adults na walang booster kailangan gawin. Ito kasi nag-stem from the pandemic. Hindi lang naman sa Pilipinas but the other countries. That this is an old disease na bumabalik. No? Last year, nasa 20s lang number. Ngayon, 500 sa first quarter pa lang of the year. And then for areas like Quezon City, Pasig City, Iloilo, and Cavite na nagkaroon ng outbreak at may death sila. I think may report din si Mayor Magalong ka-text ko. Pero it is not as severe as COVID. Ang COVID kasi wala kang bakuna at that time. At saka wala kang immunity. Ito naman, Bordetella pertussis, pag ikaw naman ay nabigyan ng bakuna, you will be protected. Kaya lang, ang problema natin is the anticipation kasi wala tayong bakuna according to the Department of Health. June pa dadating. So, ang recommendation dyan is to be able to protect again. So, ibabalik mo ng konti. Kung ako tatanungin, without hesitation, those with outbreak areas, magpapamask mandate ako with due respect to the Department of Health. Kasi kung wala kang bakuna, June pa darating, may outbreak ka. Anong gagawin mo? Hindi naman kabigatan ang magmask ka. Lalo na, ang carrier dito are the parents kasi they're the ones moving around eh. And of course, mas malakas sila. But their kids and their apo, sila ang delikado. So the best way is the usual minimum public health standards. Ladies and gentlemen, wearing of the face mask, washing with alcohol or soap, and of course, social distancing. And then when you have time, I think you need to go to the centers. But alam mo, ang learnings ko rito is the deployment eh. If you remember during the COVID, we had lots of vaccines kaya lang wasted. umabot almost to 30 billion. It is because I think it was the fault of the Department of Health at leadership at that time because they ordered so much, but they were not able to deploy it right away. In other countries, what they are doing, from the airport, meron ng freezer vans and they will go right away to the provinces pagdating. Or they have to commission large chains pharmacies where residents can just go and then magpabakuna. Like in the States, Walmart, Walgreens, nandun lang siya, madali na, and you don't have to line up or queue. And then, mas faster yon. Kasi ako, why will I go to a center ang layo-layo, ang init-init pa ng panahon? The other thing, kung June darating ang bakuna, ulanin na yon eh. You have dengue, you have leptospirosis. Ang hirap nun. Now is the time to vaccinate because it's summer. Mas madali ngay magbakuna. Ngayon, kung nahihirapan sila supply, what they will do is just talk with the private sector, the pharmaceutical companies, to hasten the arrival of the vaccines. And they have to work with the WHO in order to do that. Kasi this would need sense of urgency. Kasi ang problema niyan, kung kumalat na buong Pilipinas, ang mahirap pigilan yan, archipelago country tayo eh. Even if it is not as dangerous as COVID, in the countryside naman alam natin, kokonti ang hospital, kokonti ang doktor, kokonti antibiotics. Kawawa naman ang the countryside. Eh kung nasa NCR ka, mabuti, malapit-lapit tayo. Pero how about those areas outside of Metro Manila? Tapos mainit pa ang panahon, madidehydrate ang mga bata pag nagkaganito. So there's a connection of the hot weather condition and the development of pertussis. The hot weather condition will actually dehydrate pa yung mga bata or yung mga madadali nito. So there's a connection between this. So dapat ganun ka-broad ang explanation natin to the public. Now, I would urge the Secretary of Health, my good friend, si Ted, to coordinate with the DepEd Secretary, with the CHED Secretary, with the DLG and the DOLE, na mag-educate and then yung vaccines ibigay sa kanila. And then, sa private sector naman, doon sa mga pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies so that mabilis natin may kakalat. Kasi tip of the iceberg siya eh. Kung tumataas yan, tataas din ang measles natin eventually. Tataas ang flu, tataas ang pneumonia. At yan ay tataas sa June hanggang October up to December. So the flu vaccine and the pneumonia vaccine dapat ginagawa na rin sa ngayon. I think that's the explanation na gusto kong sabihin. Learning as a national task advisor during the COVID. These are things na sinulat ko yan, ginornal ko na yan, that next time, in order to prevent the pandemic, deployment problems of vaccines, you have to do that. I patterned that after the US and after the UK experience nila. Kaya ang bilis-bilis nila.
See, so the current cough outbreak right now requires a multi-agency approach, like what you said. And for this extreme hot weather, hydration is the most important. And it would be best to wear your mask once again before those pertussis vaccines come in June. Thank you so much for your health tips and guidelines, Doc. Thank you so much, public health expert and DOH former health advisor, Dr. Tony Leachon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.